Who wrote in? Who wrote in?
They're all set.
Lucky. Yeah, well, many of you have met me before. I'm Jon DelVecchio. I work for Ron as a local riding skills coach. So let me just ask you a quick question. Who's heard keeping the rubber side down before? Has anyone not heard it before? Keeping the rubber side down? All right, you want to tell these guys? When someone says that to you, what do they mean? Yeah, keep the bike upright. Okay, so if it's rubber side down, it's kind of like a I wish you well, in your travels. Because if the rubber side's down, we're in pretty good shape. Anybody know who this guy is? MotoGP. This is Jorge Lorenzo. He's currently leading in the MotoGP. He's a Spanish rider. And if you see him in this picture here, he's on the beginning of a ride here. He has the open road in front of him. He's optimistic, enthusiastic. Do we get on our motorcycles optimistic, enthusiastic that things are gonna good time, right? Everything's gonna be fine. Gonna return home, and then the next thing you know, you find yourself with the rubber side up. Right. So now, hope we never have a mishap like this, but it can happen quickly that something can go wrong. So. Is it possible then that we approach our riding with the same optimism? So we're just going to talk about how you can keep the rubber side down. So let's talk about incidents. When I first proposed to talk about this issue with Lynn, it was sort of like I think I had crashing in the title or something. Let's eliminate crashing, and she said, "Well, can we package it a little nicer? Because nobody buys a motorcycle to crash," and I agree with her. So we're going to talk about incidents in general, just a problem, a mishap, if you will. So who's taking the basic rider course here? Okay. What's the difference? I'll ask Frank.
Okay, Stephen, but thank you.
What's the difference between a crash and an accident? You remember?
I just think.
Put him on the spot.
Put me on the spot. It's okay. I think an accident is unplanned,
Okay, Steve.
and a crash. Maybe you're trying to avoid something in your crash, as opposed to an accident being unplanned and somebody pulling in front of you unexpected.
We'll let you off the hook.
Like that.
Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
I think a crash is being impacted with something.
Impact with something? Well, let me give you a scenario. It's very windy out there today. Who rode? Okay. Now, if you're just waiting at a stop sign on your way here today and a tree fell on you, would you call that more of an accident or a crash?
Accident.
Yeah, it's more of an accident. Was it preventable? No, it's hard to really, these things are hard to prevent. Now, a crash, on the other hand, what if you blew through a red light to get here because you heard the speaker was great? Would that be more of a crash or an accident?
Correct.
More of a crash because it's preventable. So people say, oh,
Walk this way.
okay, he had a motorcycle accident. Well, in most cases, it was probably more of a crash. So, mishap, another term. Let me just ask you a question. Before I get into the question, today I'm going to talk more so about just all the severities of incidents, whether very mild or more extreme. Okay, most motorcycle statistics talk a lot about fatalities, but that's kind of a morbid way to look at things. Let's just take a look at just overall statistics and incidents. So how many motorcyclists in a year roughly have an incident in the U.S., you think? Take a guess.
Percentage of drivers or total
Just number of incidents, mild or extreme, in a year. Just throw a number out. An incident could just, from a tip-over motorcycle to a fatality.
50,000.
50,000? 30? 300,000? Well, the numbers I'm going to be using are from 2011, and there were, on average, over the past 10 years of the information that I got, on average, 150,000 people went to the emergency room from motorcycle-related crashes, okay, or incidents, if you will. So what that means is, it has to be more, right? Because how many, have you ever heard of someone who did have a mishap and then they didn't go to the emergency room? So that's over 400 a day. Now, that's the U.S. Let's talk about New York State. How many incidents a year here? 2011. How many incidents? Take a guess.
30,000.
30,000? Good, I hope. Anyone want to go lower?
12.
In New York, in 2011, we had 5,336 incidents. It's about 14 a day, roughly. All right, so these are about 5,000 of our brothers and sisters that ride. All right, so they started out like Jorge, and then ended up somehow upside down. All right, so whatever you want to call them, how mild, extreme, you want to avoid them. All right, just imagine your pride and joy on its side right here. How'd you park your motorcycle? Could the wind blow it over today? Hope not, right? Everyone's like, yeah. Well, I would call it a mishap. Let's talk about risk now. Some of you do not know I'm a high school teacher. I also teach driver ed. I, of course, teach the BRC. And my life is basically taking information that's kind of out there and churning it into more understandable, more usable information. I do it every day. And so that's what I did. I took statistics that we were told in our recent rider coach workshops, and information I've been looking at on the internet that's available to you guys too. And I'm trying to just give you my observations, to distill the information into something that you can use. Is it scientific? Maybe, maybe not. But it's just, again, I'm trying to make it so that you can take something with you in an easily conceptual way. So let's talk about, oh, by the way, everything we talk about in this presentation, you could do everything I suggest and still have a mishap. Or do nothing I say and not have a mishap. It's the probability of you having an incident on any ride changes in riders to rides, whatever. So I do want you to keep that in mind. We know there's no guarantees, right? So can you ride without any risk? No. All right. Life is a risk, especially when you get out on a motorcycle. And so I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think there's something you can do to decrease it? Yeah. I mean, are there many things you can do to decrease it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a random event. In a lot of cases, you can reduce your risk. It's and I talk about to this with my driver ed kids and to my motorcycle courses. It's not just the same. You know, I'm going to get on a motorcycle, and if I have an accident today, it's just fate, just going to happen. If you take that attitude, then you're probably more likely to have a mishap. So we can reduce our risk when we ride. So knowledge is power. Well, now I'll open up with external factors. These are trends that are happening in the United States that are going to impact you. We've seen over the past many years an increase in motorcycle registrations. So yes, even though some of us have 4, 5, 6 motorcycles, what this tells people is that more individuals are riding. Does that make sense? Registrations go up and more people are riding. So if more people are riding, will there be more mishaps, incidents? Yeah, it's just statistically possible.
What state is it?
I don't know, but that is my version of heaven. You know, no cars, all motorcycles.
All one direction.
Another trend in the U.S. is we have more incidents when the fuel price increases, right? So if you take a look at the price of gas, are we experiencing high gas prices right now? Yeah, so when gas prices are high and more people are riding, there are more incidents. It's just something that's general. And of course, this is all situations, whatever vehicle you're driving or riding on, 80% of crashes are related to what? Distractions. So let's just take a look at this person here. Who should we worry about for distractions, for being distracted? Who's distracted to cause us a problem? Cagers, right? So we say, that guy in the car, he's distracted. So because he's distracted, that's unsafe for me. Now I'll ask you this question. Could it ever be us that's distracted? Yeah, remember folks, this 80% is you too, on your motorcycle. All right, so if you're distracted, you're increasing your probability of a crash. Now, what types of things can distract us?
Wind.
Huh? Wind.
Stress.
Huh? Stress.
Sweating bodies.
Okay. Have you seen the cockpit on some of these motorcycles? Okay. I mean, what can you press? What can you move? How about your GPSs, right? Yep. Raise your hand if you've operated a GPS when you were riding, and maybe it was protesting. It wasn't helping you. So, again, just want to point that out. Don't just say it's other drivers that are distracted. We get complacent also. Now let's kind of zero in on some more information here in New York State. I'm going to break this down: teenagers, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. What age decade do you think has the highest crash risk? 60s? Teenagers?
Probably goes right with age.
You think it goes, so what do you predict? You predict that, is it higher with 20 and then trade off, or does it start low and go up?
Inverse.
Inverse, okay? Well, you ready? There it is. Now, what you have here, folks, this is a 5% swing roughly. Not as much as you would think. Let's take a look. First of all, teens and 60s, they don't even put the 70s and 80s on here. Let's just ask for, what's the trend here? Why would teens and 60s be so low? Now this is percent in the number of incidents in 2011. Why would so few teens and 60s be represented?
Fewer riders there.
Yeah, fewer riders. So remember, the fewer riders are going to represent fewer crashes in that age group. Now let's take a look. Where are you in this? And the numbers go something like this. 19, this was 20, this was 21, I think 17. So take a look at it. Wouldn't you think that the 20s, those squids out there, that they would be just taking up half of this thing, doing those wheelies down the road and all that? But really, think about it. Do you think there's more 20-year-olds than 50-year-olds riding? A lot of baby boomers. So, but I would suggest that maybe, this is where people do much, and I'm not talking just Beamer riders. I'm not talking to people here that come to listen to people talk about how I can get better out there. I'm just talking overall, so just think if more 20-somethings are riding than 50s, you could almost take this little, cap it off, bring it over here. Now, I'm not a statistical proof, but what I'm going to ask you now is, does your age really matter when it comes to who's crashing in New York State? No, it's indiscriminate. It's all across our ages. So I don't want you to think, well, I'm young, so I'm probably not going to crash, or I'm an experienced rider, so I'm probably not going to crash. What I'm proposing is that regardless of your age, you have the same amount of risk of having an incident. Again, these aren't fatalities, they're incidents, right? Now let's talk, when do you think most of the incidents has happened? What days? What days? Let's start with days. Friday and Saturday, weekends. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that more than a third of the crashes in New York State in 2011 happened on Saturday and Sunday. Gee, when do you ride? You ride Saturday and Sunday? Probably ride all week, but what time of day you think represents on these days? Evenings after lunch? Okay. About half of the crashes or incidents on the Saturdays and Sundays happen between noon and 6. So today stinks, but in a couple more weeks, is it possible you'll be on your motorcycle on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon? Okay, so I'm telling you that you might want to say, I should probably pay close attention. Now, is it maybe because more people are riding, all right, and a lot of people ride at 3 in the morning? Okay, perhaps, but just something to think about. Regarding New York State information, what do you think some of the hot spots are? If you could say the number one thing causing us problems, what would it be? Huh?
Intersection.
Yeah, intersection. Whoa, sorry, I jumped ahead. That'll be the next one. I'll just tell you this because I screwed up. In New York State, if you crash or have an incident, half of them are just you by yourself. No one else is responsible. This was you. You have 100% of the blame on this. The other half of the incidents that happened in 2011 was with another roadway user, one or multiple vehicles. Okay, so it's a 50-50 toss-up. So what can we take from this information?
Control at least half.
I mean, you can control at least half of it by those things we talked about, paying attention, and some other things I'm going to show you. But you know, it's not like, oh, I don't want to hit another car right now. There's a lot of cars around, so once I get into free open space, I'm fine. Remember, it could be you, so it's at all times 50-50 split roughly. Now we'll talk about some hot spots. That was incidents with others. And you said, where do we have problems? Intersections, right? So it's no mystery. 20 to 25% of our problems are with someone not seeing us. And this is the high-vis capital of Rochester, this place here, okay? Everyone that comes here, it seems, at least has something high-vis in their closets. But many people don't make themselves more conspicuous. So take a look at this guy on his Beamer. What's going to happen here? What does this person want to do? They want to turn left in front of them. So we need to prepare for this, right? Another piece of information, who's had a deer strike? Or anybody seen a deer while they're riding? How was that? How was the deer strike?
Terrible. Jumped right on the bike at 40.
Yeah? Did you see it coming?
No, it was like that.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, his experience is it's not the deer you see that's going to hit you. Yeah. It's the one that just blanks out of nowhere. If you've had it happen in your car, it's very unsettling. Did you keep it upright? No?
My wife popped off the back, hurt. She had a full face helmet,
Wow.
which protected her from not being killed.
Oh my God.
Bike was doing like 40, and the bike just missed a tree. And the people behind us, when they came over, the policeman was asking him, "Did you see it?" And he said, "It was the funniest thing we ever saw. We never saw a deer jump on a motorcycle."
Really?
But the thing that really saved me was the fact that it was a front 1150R, and the right jug kept the deer from taking me completely off the bike. It caught on his hip. So that's wow.
Yeah, so he knows firsthand. And so that it does happen, and we need to prepare for that. The numbers, the person who gave me this information couldn't even explain the jump. There was an enormous jump from like 1% to 8%. So we're not quite sure exactly what they're including in the information, but we do know that animal actions are getting in the way. Let's take a look at the last one here. What does this mean to you, rider and experience? when you hear that, rider and experience, they're new. That's the first thing we think about. The newbies. And that's true. New riders do lack experience. And 10% of the incidents is pretty interesting to look at. It's not that high, but it still represents a good amount. But let me ask you another question, though. Could veterans be inexperienced? Okay, new bike. Okay, so return riders. Okay, that maybe rode 10, 15 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. But again, would they admit they're inexperienced? No. Okay, how about miles ridden per year? Do you have any friends? Maybe it's you. You put 100 miles a year on your bike. So you've been riding maybe for many years, but you haven't put that many miles on. Simply having your name on the title of a motorcycle doesn't really make you experienced. It's actually getting out there. And I'll also put this out there. A lot of people, and I read a writer from Rider Magazine say this one time, a lot of people, many riders, not most probably, but many riders have ridden 10 years, but they only have 1 year's experience because they've ridden that same year 10 years in a row. They haven't done anything to improve their skills. They're just repeating the same thing over and over again. So think about your experiences and how much have you really put into your skills lately. So now we're going to give you some information on how you can take control of the situation. All right, so you can use this information just to make better and informed choices. Again, there's nothing perfect, but you mentioned something with the deer crash. Your wife and her helmet. So, what are your thoughts on helmets? Full face.
Keep them tight.
Huh?
Keep them on.
Make sure it's on your head. Wear it. Yeah. Do we have a choice here? No, we have to by law. Still, people skirt the system. I would say we do have choice between a full face, half, 3/4. We have choices. People say, "Oh, you don't have choice in New York State." You really do have choices. And what choices will you make? Well, you talked about how it was really vital. We had a member of our group. He doesn't hang out with our riding group very often, but he did have a crash in Boston, and his jaw broke even with a full face on. And we saw his helmet, and it was sobering, okay, to see. Now, when an incident does occur, helmets make a huge difference, right? I mean, did it make a huge difference for this person? Yeah. Right? I know when I was new, I thought I knew everything my first year riding, and I had a half helmet on, and I was wearing a t-shirt. My jacket was bungeed behind me, and I locked up the front wheel on Mount Hope. Over I went, like this. I looked at my helmet after. Well, first of all, bleeding. I looked at my helmet after, and there was gouges like this along the helmet. I was pretty petrified, horrified, whatever the word is. Because what if my face decided to face plant? You know, I mean, I wouldn't be as pretty as I am today. I'll tell you that, okay? So they make a huge difference. Let me have you guess though, of the 5,336 incidents in New York State, how many happened without a helmet on? Take a guess.
Way too many.
Half? Way too many? Without a helmet.
In New York?
In New York.
10%.
10%?
20%.
You see my notes? If you would believe it, 560 riders in New York had an incident without a helmet on in 2011. I don't know what the reasons are for this. I can only speculate. Why do you think that this could happen?
I just want to take your bike down the street for a quick ride,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah, let me take your bike down the road. What else?
They're on private property, they're on a farm road.
Private property. Have you ever done something to your motorcycle and want to take it for a quick spin? Okay, I don't, and sometimes I would just hop on and just run down the street real quick, make sure everything's working. Right after I changed my brake fluid. I mean, how smart is that? You know? Gee, let me just hop on this thing, I don't need a helmet, I'm just going down to the neighbor's house and back, just to see if my brakes work after working on them. I mean, come on, it's a little ridiculous, isn't it? So now, if I'm leaving my driveway, I make sure it's on, because I was surprised at that number, because I really don't know, maybe private property. I was thinking maybe at the borders. I spoke with another rider coach last month who's a trooper down by Erie, just inside New York State, and he said people come across the border from Pennsylvania, and he stops them, and he says, "Where's your helmet?" Well, they don't even know they're out of Pennsylvania. All right, so that could be part of the number, but
Somebody steals your helmet.
yeah, maybe someone steals it.
That can be a problem. I worry about that.
Yeah.
Do you know what the fatality rate is in like in New Hampshire where there's no helmet law? Is it greater than it would be in New York State?
I could find that out if I looked it up. I don't have that information. I will tell you though that that when states repeal their helmet laws, like Michigan did, fatalities rise. Now helmet repeal law advocates like debate will say that, well, it was increased ridership, it was the increased fuel, and these other things. But Florida, I think Louisiana saw such a huge surge that they then said, no, you have to wear them again. Pennsylvania's rethinking it. But again, Michigan just repealed it. So whatever your political beliefs are, helmet use goes down in a state where it's not required. As you can imagine, I'm just going down the street, none of my friends are wearing it, whatever the excuses are. But I can't really give you a number if they have more fatalities than us, because our state data is very different. Alcohol. Anybody in here like a beer every now and then? Maybe wine is your thing. Maybe you like a little whiskey at the end of a hard day's work. I don't know what it is. But is it wine coolers, anybody? Now, this is a huge problem. In the U.S. overall, alcohol is still a major problem for the riding community. Have you seen drinking and riding anywhere?
All the time.
All the time?
Bike shows.
Bike shows. You ever drive, go by a tavern, see bikes parked outside? Okay? And we're all here, I love when I talk safety to people, they're like, oh, I'd never do that. No. Never have a beer when you ride. And everyone wants to give you the right answer, especially in a BRC. I mean, as soon as they walk out, they'll do the opposite they tell you. But boy, when you're going to grade them in some way, oh, here's the right answer, sir, So we know we're all adults here, and we can make our own decisions here, but I'm telling you that it's an issue. So the MSF has a really nice ad that they put. It says, ride and don't drink and ride, drink and don't ride, and you can use them in any order and it still makes sense. Try to separate any drinking from your riding. Now, some people will have a beer, then go, have a beer with dinner, then drive home. Little different situation, even though it's not advisable to have any alcohol and then operate a motor vehicle. But a motorcycle, what does a motorcycle require of you? Balance, coordination, reaction time. I mean, everything you need to ride proficiently and properly. It's the anti-motorcycling drug. It strips you of everything. So think about it. People spend a lot of money in this place buying expensive motorcycles and paying attention to their skills. And you're going to take a skills class. You're going to learn something. Then you can go have a couple of beers at lunch when you stop. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But at the time, a beer sounds great at lunch. I'm used to having a beer at lunch. Well, think about that when you go out, because you do increase your risk. Now, anyone been to the Quaker Steak and Lube? I suggest you get out there in Gates. It's Wednesday nights. It's going to be starting up, and they have a lot of motorcycles out there. A lot of people show up. What do they sell in the parking lot? Yeah, when I go there, I've met Ron Hines there a couple of times. We're the guys with Pepsis. Guys with Pepsis. I've seen people that should know better to for just their livelihood would say that they shouldn't do this, doing it. So you'll see a lot of people having beers, drinking and riding, doing all kinds of shenanigans, kind of like out here when they do the log cabin, okay? So we have kind of an issue here where the message is getting mixed somehow. You know, where motorcyclists, oh, you just have a beer when you go out to meet everybody. Now anyone ever go out of state to a lube bike night? I went to one in Florida. I was down there visiting my father-in-law, and so I was in walking distance of the lube. So I walked over there with my son, and let's go check out the bikes. Went inside, I bought a nice big beer. You know, I go to walk out, the girl goes, oh, you can't leave with that. So I just kind of, after I sent my son went back home, and to my father-in-law's, and so I sat in the place just by myself finishing this beer so I could go back out there. They wouldn't let people drink in the parking lot. Okay? A little different, right? Now we got a different permit here. What was the problem there that I saw? Nobody was drinking in the parking lot.
Clothing?
Oh, you had to see them. Full leather GSXR jackets and the whole smash.
Helmets?
No helmet. I saw maybe 5 or 10% of the people in that parking lot had helmets on. So it's like, I don't know why we do this to ourselves. You know, if we can drink, we're going to do it. If we can't we don't have to wear a helmet, we're not going to do it. So again, what are we doing? We try to find ways to make this thing more risky, I guess.
Well, one of the worst things with that is most of the fundraisers that you go in and ride on
Like
a
a poker run?
motorcycle, they stop at bars and places like that
Yeah.
that serve alcohol, and they end the run with the place that serves alcohol.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. I teach high schoolers. You think a teenager has peer pressure? They're dealing with, you have kids about that age? Or, I mean, we have the same peer pressure in our ages, right? Hey, I'll have a beer. You gonna have a beer? So think about that. Again, I'm not trying to lecture you. Do what you want to do. I'm just telling you that it's risky business. Here's another one. Okay. Anyone in here ever speed? Okay. Now, do you know how fast your motorcycle will go?
Speedometer, so.
Speedometer is always off 5 miles per hour.
Now it's 10 to 20.
That's what the manufacturer says it will go.
Okay. Anybody get a ticket for speeding?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Okay. So we're all, you know, susceptible to this. We ride these things. They're exciting. They go fast. They
So
perform
how
well.
do you define speeding?
Going over the speed limit. Okay, I'll go. Well, let's just say in this particular slide, going over the speed limit would be speeding. We'll call it. Okay. But we'll even say tops. You know, you're going 20 over, 30 over. You do it regularly. You're 20 miles an hour over. I don't know what's speeding. So the numbers don't tell us, is it 1 mile an hour over or is it 30? I don't know, but I will tell you speeding may cost you more than just a ticket, right? Now this is, if you haven't seen this picture yet, you know, it's out there. I mean, this little kid obviously was set up, okay? But unsafe speed was cited in half of the 2011 incidents. So when people are having problems, half of the time their speed's a factor in it. It may not be the entire problem, but the speed's a factor. All right, let's just talk about another quick issue here. Skill development. Call it what you want. Training, rider education. I really, you know, it can be called a bunch of different things. Who got their start via basic rider course? Okay, that was your introduction into the sport. Who learned from a friend? I mean, you don't have to raise your hand, but who has never taken a training class or never read a book on skill building? So I want you to just think about that the training is good for any level rider. I mean, if you think about Jorge Lorenzo in the beginning picture there, he probably still gets instruction from previous motorcycle racers, right? So we never really master this thing. We think we have, but we never really have mastered it. So any training whatsoever is good. Now, the training course interest is highest among people less than 35 years old. That's good because 43%, around 43% of the incidents come from people under 35 years old. Let me ask you then, it's good because they want it. Now, why is there a lack of interest above? How is the mindset different at that age? What? I'm just asking you because I don't really know.
I would envision it a lot of times because we've been driving a regular car for so long. We think we know what we're doing.
Okay.
We're confident.
What else?
Right, Bill?
We don't think that we're the hot dogs that we used to be.
Okay. Yeah, we think we got this, right? The experience level. Maybe people get the itch to do this thing before they're 35. I mean, once you start hitting your 40s, you've never ridden before. Maybe you're like, well, I'll get a boat or something. Maybe before you start a family, a lot of people right around this age start to think, well, maybe I should learn this way. How about the waivers? Let's talk about waivers. If you take the basic rider course, what do you get? Road test at the end, you get a waiver. If you pass it, you get your license, right? Do you think that draws people to the class?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does. Matter of fact, Ron Hines, he'll tell you, he can't fill the experienced rider course. The additional courses that he puts out there, nobody wants them. Because they don't get something physically tangible at the end, right? When you take the BRC and you get your license at the end, it's a tangible thing at the end that you go for. And it represents maybe that you've learned something. What if there were no waivers? Do you think the interest would wane down there?
Yeah, you'd have less enrollment.
Maybe less enrollment, okay? So, now this was an interesting statistic, if you will. I broke it down to how 100 riders get licensed in their incident risk level. So let me ask you before I reveal the information. 100 people get their license this year in New York State. What percentage goes and takes Ron Hines' course, the BRC, or just goes through the DMV process? What's the split? 80 what? 80 is who? 80 goes through the course. Anybody else?
I'm gonna say it's opposite there.
Opposite almost? Opposite almost? Anybody else? Well, we have some, you said opposite, both ends of the spectrum. Let's average it. It's right in the middle. Okay, so 100 riders are going to be blessed into this hobby of ours. 50 will go through Ron's class, or a similar one in other parts of the state. 50 are just going to walk into DMV. I want to take a road test. They'll go to a site, get their license at the end. And that's the breakdown currently. Now, I'm going to give you some incident probability next, or the risk, if you will. But before I do that, when I give you the answers, the breakdown of who's going to have an incident now, it assumes the DMV people never take a training course. Okay, so this is a training. If they later take a training course, it might decrease their risk of a crash. Okay, what do you think the split is now? There's going to be 100 crashes this year. What percent is going to come from this group, and what percent is going to come from this group? 80-20. Who's got the 80? Who's going to crash? The DMV is going to have 80%, right? Anybody have different opinion?
60-40.
60-40? Whoa. 90%, folks.
Wow.
Okay. Now, is it still very possible you took the BRC and you can have an incident? Yeah, it's 10%, 1 out of 10 people, but 90% are going to come out of this group. So whatever, regardless of what describes you, whether you taught yourself, whether you've never taken a course before, whether you took the BRC, all that is irrelevant at this point. If you say, you know what, I'll get more training. I'll take a course this year. I'll read a book this year. Because that's going to help swing you down into this lower percentage, regardless of if you took the BRC. There's still value to you taking some sort of rider course, learn how to get your skills up there. We're getting kind of near the end, so I don't want to, we're moving along good. Let's talk about rider image. Have you ever, raise your hand if you've ever done anything stupid in front of another motor vehicle or pedestrians. Girls. Can I put 2 up? You know, it just seems like, you know, you think to yourself, what was I thinking? You know, I should have had a V8, right? So this is important because part of the statistics from this Governor's Highway Safety Association, they say we should be promoting more our share of the road. Okay, people aren't sharing the road with us as much. We should take some action to do that as, I guess, the community at large. So take a look here. You got these 2 people, you know, right? You got these riders. I mean, who's projecting a better image for us?
Well, smile on your face.
Yeah, first of all, what's she doing? She's smiling, right? I mean, so, you know, this looks like a person. You know, I don't know if for Jack, she looks like she's more ready to go to work in that blazer, but. And then you see the person doing the stunting. Has anyone seen anyone stunting on the highways? At least he's wearing gloves, right? I have yet. I've seen people race past me, but I really haven't seen the wheelies and the things on 390. Like a lot of people say 531. 531 on the way to Hollings. I guess people they stunt and do those kind of things. But what do you think the person in the car thinks?
Are you freaking crazy?
Yeah, those motorcyclists, they just don't care about their safety or anyone else. They're bastards, you know? And we all pay because the next motorcyclist that this person sees will pay the price for their mistake or their image, okay? So now, again, a lot of us raised our hands, and I raised mine too. I will do something probably that is a little bit, you know, not in the best light when I ride with my friends and that kind of thing. But I try really hard to think about what image am I projecting out there, and that brings me to the next point. Don't there's a saying that says the only thing for evil to prevail is good men do nothing. You know, so take action to promote motorcycling and awareness. You know, some people put signs in their yards. Ride your motorcycle to work. People ask you about it. Say, well, there's good points and bad points about it. Try, consider the value of promoting it in a positive way. Informally, you can share the road just by being a good ambassador. So consider those things. Now, military personnel, I threw this in there because it's an issue that we have. Any military personnel? I know Jay here. Any other military personnel? Anyone? Veterans? Okay. Just want to say thank you, by the way, to all the veterans. I mean, let's give them a round of applause. I really appreciate all that effort. I really do. And what we found is that soldiers returning home are at a higher risk. Okay. Now.
I can testify to that.
Yeah, please explain.
When I came home from overseas, that was probably the most riskiest summer after I took the most risks and rode stupid.
Why? What goes through the mind, the mentality?
I'm invincible.
Invincible.
I survived combat. I can survive, 2 wheels.
Yeah. So that's part of the reason why, because in the adrenaline rush, right, of all that the stuff going on over there. So. I just want to I wish, I don't see Ron Hines here today, but the MSF has the Advanced Rider course. He has 3 courses happening this summer in June. The 1st, the 2nd, and the 15th. The military was so, they were so alarmed by their soldiers getting killed at home that they said to the MSF, help us, make us a class. That course turned into the civilian version, the Advanced Rider course. So you can take that class with Ron Hines. It's 1 day. Our riding group has basically reserved the whole class. So I strongly suggest you take it. It's a wonderful class. If you don't learn something, you could call me up. I'll give you $10. I mean, there's no way you're going to take that class and not be like, I'm so glad I went to Country Road on the 20th, and I heard John say, take this class. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I followed up with it. You will like it. So, again, I just wanted to promote that. And Ron's not here to really say anything more about it. LearnToRide.net. You want to follow up on this? So, trying to wrap this up here. What are some of the bottom line things? What did you hear today that you think you could walk out those doors with and improve something on?
Stay alert.
Stay alert. Good, huh? Anybody?
Get training.
Get training.
Take the ARC.
Take the ARC. Yeah, see, I hit that pretty hard, didn't I? Just so you're aware, I'm taking it this summer. I've been riding about 11 years. I'm a rider coach. I'm taking the ARC for the 3rd time. Okay, paying my own good money to take it a 3rd time. That's how much I love this class. So the bottom line is, I put it up here, we're all vulnerable every ride. Please don't think that because you're you and bad things happen to other people that you're safe. Or that you've been riding 20 years without an accident. Does anybody know anybody has 100,000 miles on a motorcycle, never crashed? You ever hear that story? Someone says, oh, I know a guy. It does happen. Around every corner lurks an issue. So, also, we can all benefit from skill building activities. And again, I'll say, read a book, watch a video. Twist of the Wrist by Keith Code. Phenomenal DVD. The book's great too. You don't have to pay money. Go on YouTube. I'm sure you can get clips of a lot of these things. But learn something new. Don't just have the same riding year of experience over and over and over and over and over again. Try to learn something new on every ride. Which it's kind of tough to do, but again, keep your speeds under control. We know you love it. Drew told me last year about the motorcycle New York safety track opening up in Oneonta. They're opening up in May. You can go down there and ride your own motorcycles. So if you want to feel speed, do it in a controlled environment. Don't risk your life and the lives of other people. And again, I have to follow my own advice, don't I? Okay, so I need to watch my speeds also. Just understand, when you roll it on, you could be getting yourself into more trouble. Someone said focus. Pay close attention when you ride. I don't know if some of you are like me, but when I'm on my motorcycle, I get in this heightened kind of state where it's almost like I'm in like hyper mode. Not in a bad way, but I'm really focused on things, and I strive for precision in my riding. So that might help you. Separate alcohol from any riding. Helmet use is smart no matter how short the trip. And be a good ambassador for motorcycle riders. So I think if you can do some of these things, it's just going to help you keep the rubber side down. Now, on the last slide here, I just want to show you some of the things. And by the way, I made copies of this PowerPoint that you could take with you if you wanted to. So maybe you didn't remember everything, or you just you didn't get something, you want to spend more time looking at it. I also brought the streetSkills Challenge, another non-scientific thing I created to help you assess you, and then make adjustments to things that you think you can improve on. Again, it's a non-scientific thing. Don't come at me saying, is this peer-reviewed type of thing. So I'll put those out. I just want to share with you what I've been doing lately. I mentioned earlier I'm a high school teacher, so none of this that I'm doing is paying any bills. I just enjoy it, and so these are some of the things that I've been doing with streetSkills. I'm spreading the word. I'm talking today. This was me at the Moto Guzzi rally last July. Twitter and Facebook. Anybody using those? I'm not a huge fan of them. I don't go on very often, but I'm starting to maybe grow a little bit with these medium. I'm just tweeting every now and then if something happens, if any news. And if you're not into these things, again, I check Facebook once or twice a week, if that. Okay, so it's just nice to have a little carve your niche out there. I have the flashcards. This is they're printed right here. You know where Pinnacle Printers is? It's right across from Drew's Sandwich Shop on South Avenue. But they make these right here in Rochester, and again, these are this is what started it all. My flashcards. I have them today. If you're a teenage rider, do we have one? See me after. I got a special gift for you. But these are good, especially if you're teaching somebody. You know, we know, should they take the class? Yeah, but sometimes before they get in, they want to ride or whatever. You want to give them some experience before. This could help as like a kind of a curriculum to follow. Again, it's not peer reviewed or anything. I'm not competing with the MSF. Just something to follow so you don't miss things. I'm doing an audio podcast, which is, you know what these are? You record yourself, you put it up in an MP3 form. And you know, I only have about 6 or 7 episodes up there. And I got 2 emails yesterday. Geez, when you put another one up? We like them. So I might start putting more effort into these. Again, they're just like 10, 15 minutes of something you can use. Motorcycle Times is like a Backroads. You heard of Backroads magazine over here? You get it for free. There's many on the way out. This one's it's like a free time. And I had asked, that, you know, they have promoted the cards, and I said to the new owners of the magazine, hey, would you mind if I did a column for you? You know, it kind of promotes the brand or whatever, if you will. It's every other month, but I put them at my website. I scan them, and they're there for you to read if you want to. I'm doing this is my newest thing. Just think about you ever see like a paver where you could buy a paver brick? Okay. Well, I started this website recently called MotoSafetyWall.com, and I'm trying to get all these sites in little, you know, whether you buy small pixels or bigger ones, but just every, you know, motorcycle safety and skills in one place. And I sent out a press release to Backroads, and it's right here. It's right here. So it's taken. I mean, I've been mailing out, trying to get people involved with this. Right now, there's not much there. It's kind of like it's an idea, okay? But you know, Backroads has kind of helped me promote it again. Just trying to get the message out to people on how to get better. So all of these things are available at streetskills.net. That's, you know, the website I use. Do you have any questions for me about anything that I've talked about? Paid attention very well. Better than my students in school.
I got one for you.
What's that?
The question was raised about accidents or fatalities in New Hampshire versus New York.
Yeah.
In a 6-month period for New Hampshire was 5, and in New York was 67.
Really?
Now I'm surprised by that. Isn't New Hampshire? Do they wear helmets or not?
Well, it's a very small state.
Yeah, it's population.
New York City's
based.
got more people.
But
It should, you know.
But it's not 10 times higher, right? Is New York 10 times bigger than?
Yeah.
New Hampshire? Oh, yeah. All right, there you go.
Probably more than that.
So, you know, and I'll say,
By the way, Texas had 288.
You're gonna say Google, Texas.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I will say that, you know, again, statistics are all over the place. The way I've distilled the information may or may not be 100% accurate, but at least maybe you could put something in your pocket, put a nugget in your brain, and just maybe make a difference. You know, maybe you can pay attention to some of the things I'm doing if you want to take it in little bits. One of the reasons why I like these cards so much is that if you've taken the BRC, I mean, what were you thinking after, Frank? After you took the class?
I'm glad I did. I learned a lot.
Yeah. Did you remember everything?
No, and I read your skills book, and I read some other books.
Right.
And there's so many times that you're on the road riding, and you had a situation, and it goes back to what you learned in class,
Exactly.
and it made you a better rider.
Yeah. So you can't learn it all in a weekend. So something like this, you know, keep your own notes. And the way I got the idea for this was I was reading Total Control by Lee Parks. And he had this like graph that said, you know, confidence and fear. And then it talked about you could go different ways. If you're afraid, these things can happen, your reactions. If you're confident, these things happen. So I wanted that in front of me in my map case when I went on a ride, because I wanted to practice that. And I thought, wow, what if what if all the skills that people just have to develop over time, what if you could get them, you know, just in little bites? Today I'll just put this there and I'll focus on this when I'm drinking my coffee this morning. That was the point behind this. So just reminders, that sort of thing. All right? So that's really it. I want to thank the Elkings for Country Road. Give a round of applause. I mean, no one else does this kind of thing around here, and I find it to be fantastic. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, before anybody takes off, if you'd like some lawn signs for motorcycle, look twice, save a life, help yourself. They're setting
Great.
up here, please take them, they're free.
Yeah. So if you guys want, I have a business card here if you want to get just for a website.
Yeah,
They're $10 if you want to buy one. So.
They're